Welcome to the Fearless Faith Radio Show, which follows me, Mary Grothe, and my path as a Christian executive in corporate America. I share the highs and lows, provide scripture and teaching, and then interview influential guests who are walking the talk. I aim to help fill the discipleship gap for Christians in the workplace by creating powerful and real weekly lessons we can all learn from and implement. Welcome to the Fearless Faith Radio Show. I'm your host, Mary Grothe, and we have a very thought-provoking episode for you today. I have recently been convicted with the thought about work being good, but why work causes so much stress and so many trials and challenges and friction and frustration and feelings of, I have to do this. It's my only way to afford my life. And I hate my job and my boss is terrible. And I think about originally how work was created, like God created work. Work is good. But the world took over the definition of work. I feel like the world took over our definition of what is good and what is not good. And I know that that playbook is what the world gave me when I was in my early 20s, when I had my first real job. And it was presented to me as a way to earn my stripes and to be something. And I remember sitting as a district sales assistant, an admin, and I'm sitting here in this role, looking at this number one sales team I was supporting. I was the administrative assistant and seeing all their success and more predominantly seeing their commission reports. And I thought, how do I get that life? How do I do that? Because that seems meaningful and I can make a lot of money and then I can go do everything that the world told me to do, which is go get the title, the fame, the money, the recognition. But the vehicle for that is through work. But I don't think that that's how God created work. And I think of a lot of things that God created for good, but the enemy got a hold of and disguised as things of this world that really feed our temptations. And some of it can look very innocent, like having a title, having a salary, working our way up, winning an award, being number one. Like, what are all those things that we could put into that, which in themselves, probably not a bad thing, but it's the worship of those things. It's the desire to achieve those things. It's getting, as a salesperson, I used to say commission breath, where you're doing things for your agenda and not for the people around you. Think about how work has been taken and transformed into something that is really not loved and cherished by most people. In fact, they dread going to work. Oh gosh, there's so much scripture that speaks to how good work is. And this hard left I've taken in my life has been all about honoring the work I get to do, honoring Christ through my work, furthering the kingdom, spreading the good news of the gospel. There is so much that I can do through my work to be the love and light to people that I interact with, show them a different way to do business. This has been a focal point for me for years. And now I get to be on a platform like this, proclaiming my faith and sharing the good news of the gospel, which is such a blessing. Well, it is such a joy to join you all today on this episode of the Fearless Faith Radio Show. January has been such a great month. I love the new year. I don't like the cold. Anyone who knows me, I don't like the cold. The good news is that the radio station today is like 300 degrees and I'm baking and it is wonderful. I just close my eyes and I can pretend like I'm on the beach. If I listen quietly enough in my headphones, I actually think I hear some waves. But on that note, January is off to an incredible start. I'm grateful for the start of this year and being so Christ-centered and having him at the forefront of everything that I am doing. Today, we have a very special guest. One of our sponsors, Darrell Amy is his name, is joining us today. We actually have an extended version of our interview segment. Typically, that falls on the back half of our episode. I'm going to quit my yapping early today and bring him on sooner than later, so you won't have to wait too long to hear from Darrell. I'm so excited to have him today for so many reasons, of which I will share with you now. Darrell and I ran two revenue consulting firms. I'm just going to call it that. There's some difference in nuance, but side by side here in Colorado, and ran those side by side for a handful of years. We both knew of each other. There was a lot of respect for each other's work and what we were focused on and doing. And I had heard of Darrell several times, but then I got a copy of his book and I start reading this book like, I could have written this book. This is amazing. He and I are so aligned, but it's crazy. I mean, gosh, we were just one LinkedIn message or phone call away from each other, but it didn't happen until after I exited from my company and I was invited to be on a show that he co-hosts called Selling from the Heart. And I got to meet him finally. And it was that fun little moment that we had like, hey, I know who you are. Hey, I know who you are. And it was so cool to spend that time together. And I realized, wow, there's so much more to this man than knowing how to scale revenue. And we started to dig in and talk. I'm like, wow, there's a lot more here. And so I'm very excited that he's joining us today. I think this is going to be a big blessing for our audience and have a lot of wisdom shared. Okay. So on that note, I do want to bring to light one of our sponsors today that I'm excited to share with you. My very own full-time job. I am a chief revenue officer for a payroll company out of Maryland called PNIHCM. It's a lot of letters all in a row. It stands for Payroll Network, Inc. HCM is Human Capital Management. I have been in the payroll industry since I was 22, in and out of it. It is a great industry. I loved being that district sales assistant. I loved learning the art of sales. I loved stepping into that first sales job. And I wasn't a Christian yet. I wasn't a saved woman. You know my story. I've already told it. Plus, you can read it in my book, Destination Remarkable: Surviving the Dark Side of Success. I was the number one sales rep. I loved my clients, but I was conflicted. I was conflicted as a human. I had so much hurt and trauma from my past, and I found a way to heal that and to feel good and to get recognition, which felt really good. And that was through winning. It was through being a number one sales rep. It was through making a lot of money and buying my friends vacations and rounds of drinks at the bar. I had a very interesting career in my 20s being a number one sales rep, but it doesn't change the fact that I loved the industry. I loved payroll, human resources. I loved my clients. Interestingly, after doing that for 5 years, I went on to start my first business. And then when I had my little rock bottom incident, came to Christ, the first thing I wanted to do to rebuild my life was to start with I started with Jesus and then met my husband, and then came going back into the payroll industry. I was so pleased that I was offered the same position that I had prior at the payroll company. And it just felt like home, coming back in and working in the world of payroll and human resources. It is such a comfortable place for me because these are my people. And especially in human resources, the love that they have, like, you don't get into HR to push paperwork. You get into HR because you have a love for people and you care deeply about culture and engagement and creating an experience that people want to be a part of. I have seen HR professionals do the unthinkable and create cultures inside of their companies, but that's only when they can focus on the strategic side of HR and not be drowning in the day-to-day paperwork. And I've seen so many people go into HR with this big dream and vision on how they are going to transform the culture inside of companies, only to have a desk full of paper. And that's frustrating for them. So at PNI, we've been in business for 25 years, and PNI HCM was founded by a handful of CPAs and still owned by this incredible group. These original founders had such a heart for the customer, and I'm so proud that 25 years later that is still our North Star. I joined this company. PNI was a 2-time client of mine. I was leading the team at House of Revenue, and PNI came back into the picture. And I said, you know what, I'm burnt out. I'm tired. I would love to step in as your fractional chief revenue officer. We made it official. I have been there now for a year as a full-time employee, and it has been an incredible transformative year. We focus on all aspects of payroll and human capital management, and we're taking care of our clients' employees and creating the experience that they deserve. We have a focal point on the customer experience. I've worked for a Fortune 1000 publicly traded payroll company, and I know what good looks like. This is good. This is good. We care so much about our customer. We pick up the phone, we talk to them. Our software is award-winning software that pays millions and millions of people each year. And so the R&D is strong and great technology. But I'm so proud to work with this company for so many reasons. So that's my sponsor presentation for the day is my very own full-time employer, Payroll Network Inc., P&I HCM. If you are a leader and you're in the market looking for new payroll or HR provider, you should definitely give us a look. You can go to pnihcm.com. So on that note, I am going to welcome Darrell Amy to the show. We're going to learn about him. We're going to hear his story, and we are going to dive in deep to what he's working on. And then I think we're going to hash out maybe some opinions about work. I'm so pleased that Darrell Amy is here with us today. Darrell, welcome to the show.
Mary, it's great to be here.
I would like for you, please, to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Mary, I have become passionate about helping purpose-driven companies accelerate growth. And I'm a Canadian kid who married a Southern girl. I live now in the Southern United States. And today, as we're having this conversation, is actually the 20th anniversary of me being in business as an entrepreneur. And most of that time, how cool is that? Most of that time has been focused on helping companies scale. And you made mention in the previous segment about the work we had done in parallel universes in terms of revenue growth and helping companies scale. And I'm excited now about the shift into something that I think is going to be a great alignment for Kingdom businesses that want to grow both their revenue and profit as well as their impact. And we can talk about that as we move through. But all of this, what lights my fire in getting out of bed in the morning is meeting Kingdom-minded, faith-driven business owners that are saying, hey, you know what? I want to make a difference in the world with my business. I want to have an impact. And when we get to help companies like that scale, that's a ton of fun.
Well, yeah, it is fun. And it goes back to what I was speaking about earlier is work is good. God created work. We get to further the kingdom through our work. Like, when did work become such a bad thing?
I agree 100% around the fact that work is extremely noble. I think in a lot of ways that even going all the way back to the beginning of the story when God tells Adam and Eve to take dominion over the earth and to, hey, here's the keys, run this thing, do this. And this happens this happens primarily through work. It happens through entrepreneurs starting companies. It happens through people going to work inside those organizations. And there is a tremendous amount, in a lot of ways, I don't think, we have this false division between, hey, this is sacred and this is secular. There's been this thing to go, well, if you're not getting a paycheck from a church or a nonprofit organization, you're kind of on the other team. You can give money to that to have some impact. I think that's garbage. I think, the reality is that what's happening in the work that we do is absolutely fulfilling what Jesus taught us to pray, is that your kingdom would come and that your will would be done right here, right now, in this place, in my work, and of course in my family, on earth as it is in heaven. And we get to be a part of that every day.
Yes, we do. And work is good. And I've always been drawn to work and I love working. Maybe I love working a little bit too much, but as a Christian woman, it's different. I had an opportunity to hit the reset button. Literally the exact same lineup of work I had in my 20s pre-Christ versus what I've had in my 30s with Christ in my life. I got a redo. Like, how many people get a redo? It was such an amazing opportunity to step back into that payroll sales role, this time with the Holy Spirit inside of me. I was a much nicer person. And then getting to start my second company that, yes, we ran parallel there for a while. And I always felt like I never really had a focus on, I want to work with business owners who love the Lord and I want to help them further the kingdom through their work with these entrepreneurs. I think your focus on finding these kingdom-led businesses is tremendous. The impact that can come through growing and scaling these organizations, knowing that the person who is leading this organization loves the Lord, like, this can have tremendous impact. When did you decide to make this pivot, or have you always looked at working with kingdom-led businesses?
No, I have not. And when I started as an entrepreneur 20 years ago, I mean, had that entrepreneurial itch, and I found the opportunity, and I jumped out, kind of, or maybe jumped off the ledge in that. And by the way, there is nothing that has built my faith more than being an entrepreneur. And I can look back over the last couple of decades and recognize the way that the Father has provided, that there, all of the things that happen along the way. I don't think there are a few things in life that have the potential to stretch you and stretch your faith more than being an entrepreneur. But for the most part, the reality for me was I got in business because I wanted to. I thought it would be fun. It aligned with my gifts and talents and all of that. And my motivation was to say, I want to make a ton of money so that I can give back. And I thought that's where the connection was. I thought the kingdom connection of my business, beyond just being a good person and ethical and all of that, I thought the kingdom connection was the checks that I got to write at the end of the quarter, end of the year. And I did get to write some checks, and that was wonderful. But it was about 3-4 years ago. I was on a sabbatical, and I knew there was a shift coming in what I was going to be doing. And I really started to get the sense, I was like, I can start another company and I can accelerate that and I can generate more money and more checks to write. But what could it look like if instead I found existing companies and applied that are led by faithful, incredible, kingdom-driven people? And what if we could take those companies and apply the skill set that we have, the tool set to help them accelerate, not just do it one time with my own company, but do it hundreds of times. In fact, my BHAG, my big, holy, audacious goal is to help 10,000 businesses double revenue, to create 1 million new jobs and 10 billion in new giving before I hang it up at the end of my career. So I looked at that and said, hey, we could have more impact that way. So this has been really in the last 3 or 4 years that this vision of going beyond just writing checks and supporting good causes to saying, how could we go all in? And I've met some incredible business leaders that have opened my eyes to the potential in my journey along the way.
That's so beautiful to hear. It really warms my heart because it resonates with me. Similarly, I had previously drowned in my work. I was a workaholic. I was always on, and I thought, hey, my charitable giving will check the box for my kingdom work. And I was very, very, very generous through those extremely high performing years. And I felt very good about it. And I think that it's very good. I think it's very noble. I think it's very good to be so charitable. And we're not talking about tithing. I mean, above and beyond, sometimes sacrificial giving. I have such a huge heart, but why would it not be fulfilling? I think that that's only one way that we can serve and honor the Lord. And I think it's one way that we steward what he's giving to us and to be a good conduit of circulating money throughout the world, because it's not ours. We don't own it. And it's always been an absolute privilege to write those checks. But the calling of my life is different than the calling on your life, Darrell. So similarly, I just felt this year, this calling, this like, I have to take this hard left turn. Like I have to get this platform. I have to spread the good news of the gospel. I have to boldly and unapologetically stand firm in my faith and share it in places you normally don't see it, like on LinkedIn, where I have, a decent following and put out lots of blogs and content there about my faith. And I love how you took the pivot and you're channeling it into your work. Specifically, there is something I want to dive in with you on the innovation side of things as we go into the next segment. Before I lead us into break, I've got to ask you this question. How did you come to Christ? Like, were you born in a religious family? Did you have the rock bottom like I did and drive your car into your neighbor's house? I mean, tell me the story.
Well, I did not. Yeah, I did not drive my car into my neighbor's house that I can remember.
Okay.
But, yeah, for me, I was really fortunate. Actually, it was 3 years ago today. I'm sorry, 13 years ago today. That I buried my papa, and my papa, my grandfather, was a missionary in post-war France, and so I'm deeply grateful. I've been the beneficiary of now several generations of people that have been faithful in following the Lord, and I'm just super grateful for that. So it's always been a part of my life, and I could probably spend the rest of the show telling the story behind that, but I will give credit back to some people who went before me who really paved the way for me to be able to easily find Christ and over time to be able to discover what it's like to have a relationship with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
That's really beautiful. And it is such a blessing. I mean, I look at the way that my son is being raised, which is completely opposite of how I was raised. And similarly, I want to pave the way. I want to give him access to all of it. And he will make that choice. He did choose to get baptized already. He's 7 and he was so excited for that and gearing up for it, knows what it means. He was so proud to do it and say, hey, Jesus is Lord in my life. Which is great, but he's 7 and there's a lot of life to live for this little guy. And it's about just paving the way and creating access and providing the resources and making it known and a decision that he's going to need to make when he's older. So that's really beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to hear specifically from you what it is like being an outspoken Christian in the world of entrepreneurship as a leader, how you differentiate yourself there. But I really am excited to dig into this direction that you're working on with innovation and vision inside of these companies, because man, that is so my jam and I cannot wait to dig in. Darrell is one of our sponsors. Darrell is a fellow entrepreneur who loves all things revenue and entrepreneurship and business leadership. And I'm excited to dive into this next segment of our interview because I want to understand from your perspective, Darrell, what it's like to be an outspoken Christian as a leader. And let me pad the question. I owned a company when I was 28 years old. I didn't know Christ, and I was very by the book business and implementing everything that I had learned in my college degree and then through my hands-on work. But I was very, very focused as an entrepreneur. There was no room for any kingdom stuff. I didn't even know what it was. The second time around, so I came to Christ, and then later after that, I founded a company. There were non-negotiables for me. I was so centered on Christ when I started that company, and I read a book called Business by the Book by Larry Burkhardt, one of the two. And the foundational principles of how to build your business that were biblically sound became my guiding light. Like, this is it. This is how I'm going to do it. And I remember facing the inner conflict as an entrepreneur of, if I stand for Christ, am I automatically going to alienate 50% of my potential customers, followers, employees? Like, is this going to harm my business? What do I do? And thankfully, my relationship with the Lord was so strong at the time. I'm like, duh, wherever he is, it's going to be great and it's what is meant to be. And so being able to so boldly proclaim that in my work and in my leadership and recruiting employees and how I spoke publicly online and in my blogs and on podcasts. And I'd have people all the time be like, whoa, I didn't know that's what you believed in, or whoa. And I shared a story a few years ago when we rebranded from Sales BQ to House of Revenue at my former company. I shared this big God story, and a lot of people tuned into that podcast episode and they're confused. Like they're like, oh, I didn't know this side of you and whatnot. But I've never had fear for it and I loved it. And it just felt so good to proclaim that truth. But I want to hear it from you. What does that look like for you inside of your work and your leadership and how you communicate and on your platform? What is it like to be a Christian executive and business owner?
The first thing that comes to mind is just the words of St. Francis of Assisi and his famous line where he said, preach the gospel at all times and when necessary, use words.
Yes.
And I think, it's interesting because as I'm listening to you, I've been reflecting on this verse in 1 John 2:15 where it says, don't love the world, the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And I think the opposite of loving the world is loving people. And so the temptation when we go into business is to love the world. As John goes on to say, the things that are in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the boastful pride of life. And I've spent a lot of my career in the revenue side of the business and I've seen lots of boasting.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen lots of pride. I've seen, lots of lust of the flesh, all those things that we think are the DNA of business. I think if you just flip this and say, no, don't love the world, love people. And when you love people, this is the foundation for a relationship. I had this realization several years back that in my local community, in my neighborhood, and in the people that I know here where I live, I don't know, a couple hundred people, maybe. Mm-hmm. But in my business community, inside the clients that I serve, the audiences that I've spoken to, the people that I interact with online, vendors, suppliers, partners, all of these, I literally have relationships with thousands of people. And I began to notice that, and I'm not to diminish, my neighbors and people that live in my local area, but with a lot of the work that I was doing, I'd go into people's offices, I'd be sharing meals with them over lunch, sometimes over dinner. And you start to realize that business is a platform for relationships. And relationships are where, the story of the good news is spread. Yes. Because it's in those contexts that we start getting to know people and sharing their story and what's happening in their life. And to me, business is a relational, my podcast co-host is Selling from the Heart, great Larry Levine. He always says your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. And there's no truer way that is real than when it comes to the types of relationships you can build. So if I can show up with business and not love the world mm-hmm. or the things in the world, but love people, to me, that becomes the platform to be able to earn the right and create the relationships in which, I have the ability to share my heart with people.
That is so simple, straightforward, honest, clear, and easy to follow. I love the Bible so much. I sometimes wonder, like, especially with Christians, like, have you read it? Have you opened it? Have you read it? Do you study it? Do you embrace it? Do you live it? Do you embody it? Do you share it with others? Do you speak its truth? That scripture right there's no confusion on this. It is so mm-hmm. clear cut and dry, but the enemy works to confuse us. so that we create, just like you did with Eve, just to create that one tiny little piece of space where we question and we create room for his evil schemes. I love how simple it is. And, Darrell, I had so many years still as a saved Christian woman. My upbringing in childhood was so traumatic. And it took years to heal. I'm still healing. But one of the biggest areas that I needed to heal is believing that I was good enough. And so much of what you read in that scripture of loving of the world, it's very tempting as a scale up CEO to win an award and let it go to your head. I mean, it's very tempting to be nominated, to see your name on lists, to get the accolades, to hit revenue goals and numbers, shatter through ceilings. And it's very easy to sit there and be like, look at me. Wow, I did it. I'm really something. And so humbling when God comes in and reminds us that it's Him and it's His blessings and Him allowing these things to be on our path. But the world, especially in business and in work, the world's playbook for success is full of temptation and shiny things to dangle in front of us. And I believe armoring up and having the Holy Spirit with us and being reminded of the fruits of the Spirit and having really great discernment is critical in order for us to be successful in the workplace. But I think that scripture is truly, truly beautiful. I am curious, as we look at what you're focused on now in the innovation side of things, can you tell us a little bit more about where your focus is, how you are helping business owners? I want some details.
Yeah, and it goes right along with this conversation. I think, we talk about loving people instead of loving the world. I would call that caring. But there's another side of the coin when it comes to expressing our faith in the workplace as well. And I believe that has to do with creativity. And being a creator, we're made in the image of God. In the beginning, God created, and He made us in His image. And inside that, part of when He said it's interesting. I love when Jesus first comes on the scene. He walks in the temple and unrolls the scroll and starts quoting from Isaiah 61. And He says, "The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me because He's anointed me to preach good news." But if you go and read the rest of that chapter in Isaiah 61. It's one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible. But it says that these people, that would be us, are going to be rebuilders of the ancient ruins. And so that, part of our calling, our kingdom calling in business is to clean up the mess that's been made. Mm-hmm. And how do we do that? Well, I think one of the key ways we do that is by demonstrating the creative nature of God that He's put inside of us. And the word for that is innovation. Mm-hmm. It's saying, hey, what can we do to make the world a better place? What could we do differently? What could we do better? What could we do maybe in a way that no one else has done before, literally creating something new and innovating? And I believe in the decades to come, the hallmark of the kingdom businesses is going to be these two things, caring and creating. It's going to be loving people, and it's going to be innovation. And so I'm so excited right now, Mary, because I believe that kingdom-led businesses have the potential to unlock innovation in the world in ways that maybe no other businesses can. And in the process of doing that, are going to have a tremendous impact, creating resources, growing the business, creating meaningful work for people. The list can just go on and on. And so I think this mandate that we have, this calling, this challenge, if you will, from the Lord is to go rebuild the ancient ruins. It's to make this world a better place. And we have the opportunity to innovate.
Yes. Okay. This has me on fire. Something has come to me just about creation in itself, and God, the creator, but he created us, and he created us in his image, and he created humans in his image, which means I believe we have a lot of the same talents within us. And the only way to, through our works, to further the kingdom is through action and work and doing. And I think a portion of that is innovation and creation. I mean, look at what we have done as a society, some of it, some good, some of it not so good. I don't know that the invention of social media was that great, but I'll keep my opinions to myself there. I just look at what we can do in creation, co-creation with our creator, and what can be unlocked in that. So we are going to go into a break, but when we come back, if you're willing, I'd love for you to share a little bit of the how-to, because I loved what you told me when we were going through your model and how you're working with and leading teams. And I am so curious what you're willing to share here. And then we're going to make sure everyone knows how they can get in touch with you and get you helping them inside of their companies. And we are right on this amazing cusp of finding out how Darrell could work inside of these companies, talking about this concept of innovation, creativity, and creating inside of these companies. Darrell's very bold, and I agree with him in proclaiming that kingdom-led companies probably are the ones who are going to be making a change, especially as we're heading forward in society. And so he has a format, a framework, a program to get inside of these kingdom-led companies, and he is untapping creativity and potential from maybe not the people that you would necessarily think would be consulted on a project. So Darrell, walk us through the format, the process, the thinking behind it. I am so excited for our audience to hear this.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the first point here is we actually do need a format. We need a process. And so many businesses, we've got processes for HR and payroll, right? We've got processes for revenue generation. Hopefully you have a process to invoice and collect. All of these things are processes are critical for a business. But when it comes to innovation, it's usually what I see in most businesses is what I would call random acts of innovation. Maybe the founder goes to a conference and gets an idea, and maybe they read a book, and maybe, but it's so random. And the reality is, I believe, and this is the model, is to say that there are people inside every organization that have gifts of innovation. Patrick Lencioni, who is, just the beloved leadership and organizational consultant, came up with a brilliant model called Working Genius. And I highly recommend this model to everybody. He says there are 6 types of work. The first 2 types of work are called wonder and invention. There are people with the gift of working genius of wonder. I wonder if there's a better way to do this. And there's people that have the gift of invention. I got 5 ideas on how we can make this better. These people are in your organizations right now, in every single organization. And I got to talk to a friend of mine that works inside the Working Genius team. And I said, hey, what's the level of employee engagement like for these people? Yes. And he said, well, we're compiling the data right now, but I can tell you it's not good, because most businesses that are grinding it out are focused on the working geniuses of productivity and getting things done. And they don't have space for people on the team. And so the first thing I would say, step 1 is to go, let's recognize the people inside your current company who have gifts of innovation. Yeah. And those are God-given gifts. And let's tap them and put them to work. Let's let them use those gifts. It's going to bring them joy. Second thing, though, is that innovation needs to become a system or a process. I call this the strategic innovation engine. Strategic innovation engine. In fact, you can go to strategicinnovationengine.com and learn more about the whole thing. But the idea is, let's discover who these innovative people are on your team, and let's put a council together. Jim Collins, the great author of Good to Great and Built to Last, discovered that every awesome company has a council of people who are looking to the future, who are looking to find better ways to get things done and innovate. So let's take these innovative people and let's gather them on a regular basis to come up with ideas. And then the third and most critical step that gets overlooked is let's not just leave that meeting with ideas. Let's have a process to take those ideas and pilot them, optimize them, and package them up so that they're ready for prime time. They're ready to roll out. And a lot of organizations I've been a part of, including ones I've led, as the leader, I'll get an idea. I'll come in, I'll go, I got this great idea. Here's what we're going to do now. No one's tested the idea. There's no validation or plan to roll it out. And we all know how those go. They don't go very well. So smart teams are looking at innovation and saying, hey, let's make a system out of this. Let's make a system where we identify the people with innovative gifts. We gather them regularly to come up with ideas, and we have a process for that. And then we help them leverage tools to test those things out and get them ready for prime time. And, Mary, I'm so excited to see innovation being unleashed inside Kingdom companies as we're tapping this God-given gift. In most organizations, 1 or 2 good ideas a year are just life-changing for that organization and its growth trajectory.
Yes, it is. I love the working genius. FYI, I brought this into my company a few years ago. One of my team members uncovered it and said, I think we have to do this. And I am an ID, so innovation and discernment. I apparently don't walk around wondering all day long, but innovation and discernment. When we were able to figure out the working genius of our team, again, this is before I knew you, Darrell, but we took some of the learnings from that and we restructured the way that we put together teams in order to innovate, problem solve, the way we put together teams for our clients to do the work. It was an absolute game changer. The fact that you're working from this model and then you're able to do, you're standing up those innovation councils. There are going to be people that get a spot on this council because of their working genius that maybe wouldn't be somebody that you would think, hey, we should put John or Susan or whoever the person is on this council. I think uncovering who are the innovators and those wanderers and those with discernment, who are they in our company? And being able to survey, find those people, identify them, and then build this innovation council. Holy smokes. But then, right, like the only perfect plan is the one still sitting on the shelf. And you think about what happens with the drive-by idea generation, the drive-by visionaries, like I was one of them in my company, every meeting. I have an idea, but it's one thing yes. Oh my gosh. They roll my team. Yeah. And now as a chief revenue officer, it's no different. I didn't change. My DNA is the same. I come in with ideas all the time. And I think that this is so brilliant what you have built because you're able to stand up the innovation council, but then you're creating it's already created. You have a proven process, but you're implementing this and helping these teams implement the proven process to test and prepare ideas to get them ready for implementation. There's something to be said about building and testing, because how often, and yes, I know I am that one. I am that visionary. All my ideas are so perfect, right? So I come to the table, I'm like, I have an idea. And then we go to implement, I'm like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have implemented that, but we're finding out after the fact. And so I think the way that you have structured this and built this, and I mean, it's these 4 steps, right? So identify, ideate, investigate, and implement. This is the key. I think that this path that you're on and working with these companies, I think we have to have it. There's something on your website that really stood out to me that I think will resonate with the business leaders who are listening to our show. I'm scrolling. Hold on. I have to find it because it was a really good question that you have on here. What did you say? Innovate or stagnate? Your competitors are looking for ways to provide better products and services to your customers. Will you be the disruptor or will you be disrupted? This is a tough economy right now. This is a tough market. So for business leaders like myself, especially as a chief revenue officer, it is my responsibility to be ahead of the curve and to have these ideas and to see what the competition is doing, to figure out where we need to innovate and pivot. And it is, it's a challenge and it's hard. And when you miss the pivot and you miss the innovation, it can be very costly to the business. I absolutely love the work that you are doing and this direction that you have inside of your company. Before we get to our last question of the show, how do you want people to reach out to you or get engaged so that they can have an evaluation and understand if this is right for their team or their company?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary. And I'd welcome people to come to the strategicinnovationengine.com website, strategicinnovationengine.com. And we're just releasing a visionary's guide to unleashing strategic innovation in your business. So this is a rich, detailed 14-page document that walks you step by step through how to unleash innovation in your organization. You can get a copy of it on the website. This is hot off the press. And my gift to any visionary, any company leader out there that says, I want to accelerate the growth of my company and I want to make a difference. And I want to have a good time doing it. That's the great thing about this as well, is you can have a good time doing this. I want to let you know how to do that. This Visionary's Guide to Unleashing Strategic Innovation in your business is available on the website. And while you're there, I'd love to connect for a conversation about your dreams and your goals for your business. And there's links there to do that as well. So strategicinnovationengine.com. And the great thing is for all of the listeners on LinkedIn, my name is Darrell Amy, AMY, and I'm the only one out there on LinkedIn. You're going to find me really, really fast.
That's incredible. I love it. So I'm the crazy visionary, so I will definitely be getting a copy of my guide. I'm going to post to your website in our show notes and make sure that when we promote this episode later today and over the weekend and next week, that we have all those links for the listeners so they can go back and access that if they weren't able to catch that live listening while they're driving or working out at the gym or whatever they're doing. So I'll make sure to post those links. I love your format. I love the work that you're doing. I'm so glad that you're partnered with us at the Fearless Faith Radio Show. So we can't end this interview until we ask you, what advice do you have for our audience on how to have fearless faith?
My word for the year is, I always try to ask the Lord, what do you have for me this year? What, do you have a word? Do you have something? And this year was really, really simple. The word was with. And I felt like the Lord was saying, stop doing stuff by yourself. Oh. Stop doing things for me and start doing things with me. And this is, in business, if you're leading in any capacity, in any part of a business, there are so many things flying at us all day long. And I don't know about you, but I go into autopilot and I'm just, knocking things out. And this year, my primary question is, what could it look like to do my life with God instead of for Him? Wow. And that's already changing things. So that would be my challenge to all of the listeners is, what could it look like if, your mindset was to do business with God rather than for Him? And I may be a little late to the game on that, but this one has been really, really transformational for me so far this year. And I think it may take more than a year to live this one out.
I hope you carry it for the rest of your time on earth. I have to share a God moment with you because my mind is absolutely blown right now. I'm working on my second book, and I have a tagline in this book. And it's actually on a t-shirt at doremarkablework.com, the clothing and accessory line my husband and I run. And I went back and forth for a week with my tagline, all in for Him or all in with Him. Yeah. And I originally designed the shirts with all in for Him. I was thinking living my life for Christ. And there was this conviction that that's not, it's with. It's living with Him, not for Him. Because for Him, for me, is like, yes, you can be for Him. He is for us. I am for Him. But when I'm talking about being all in, personally, professionally, in every aspect of my life, I'm with Him. He is living, breathing inside of us. This is not to honor someone and like, I'm doing this for my granddad who's passed away. Like, this isn't honoring someone's legacy. This is doing it with them in the moment. I cannot believe that those were your words of wisdom. I feel so affirmed in this moment, all in with him. It is a shirt available. DoRemarkableWork.com. I'm going to order you one, so send me your shirt size. Oh, Darrell, it has been amazing having you here with us today. I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, what a great time. Thank you, Mary.
And with that, I'm going to wrap us up for today. What a privilege it is to speak about the goodness of work. I realize that God created work. Work is good. We can honor him through our work. And Ecclesiastes 5:18 through 20 in the NIV expresses the idea of enjoying the fruits of one's labor and really honoring our work and being excited for our work. And this scripture says, "This is what I have observed to be good, that it is appropriate for a person to eat, to drink, and find satisfaction in their toilsome labor under the sun during the few days of life God has given them. For this is their lot. Moreover, when God gives someone wealth and possessions, the ability to enjoy them, to accept their lot and be happy in their toil, this is a gift from God. They seldom reflect on the days of their life because God keeps them occupied with gladness of heart." Oh my goodness. I love the Lord with all my heart. I love my work. I know that my work comes from God. I do it for him. And theme of today, I do it with him. Be well. That's it for today's episode of Fearless Faith. Be sure to connect with me, Mary Grothe, Grothe, on all social platforms, and to learn more about my keynote speaking and other ways to work with me at marygrothe.com.